Bengals went on to win, than most games. And I'll tell you why. The reason we watch football is because we care about the outcomes. And it's not that way for a lot of sports. In the NBA, the bottom of the NBA is so large, you end up watching games sometimes because you just want to watch like an individual star or two. You don't really care about who wins the game. And I've been saying this all season, where the NFL's got to be careful. It's become so quarterback-centric, and the rules are so quarterback-friendly. If you don't have a great quarterback, you're a have-not. So you don't want to become the NBA. You want to care about the outcomes. And last night felt like an NBA game. All I care about was Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. That's the only reason I watched that game. And that's what I worry about. The NFL bottom is getting large. There's like 11 teams that are hard to watch. Burrow, 33 of 44. He's absolutely brilliant. Jamar Chase, 14 catches, game winner. Probably the second best receiver in the entire world. These are all-time greats, but they are stuck in a shaky organization that, frankly, has suboptimal ownership and a front office. They're the opposite of the Eagles. They don't take any risks. Now, it's not the first time ever a great quarterback has been stuck with a franchise that can't deliver for him. Andrew Luck, Carson Palmer, same ownership in Cincinnati. Matt Stafford. Joe Burrow is similar. There is no arguing. This is why you have to contextualize championships. The fact that he got a bad offensive line and a lousy linebacking core, that team, it's almost impossible to get a bad O-line to a conference championship. He got to within a play of winning the Super Bowl. The guy is absolutely incredible. But I'm watching him last night, and I felt like I'm watching an NBA game. I'm just watching this for Burrow and Chase, because I think Jamar Chase is a top 10 wide receiver talent of my life. I think he's that good. I'm not saying he's Jerry Rice. He's an all-timer.
Okay. This is a fascinating topic because obviously at this point for the Bengals and the Cowboys, there's really no analysis that's needed for this game because it doesn't really matter. That's really the problem more than anything. I understand what Colin is saying about comparing it to the NBA. He says we watch football games because, we want to know the outcomes. And since I obviously interact with a ton of you guys on here, I'm really curious what your thoughts on that statement are. This is the first time I'm hearing him say something like this. A lot of times he says a lot of the things, he has a lot of like his greatest hits that he kind of repeats. And this is the first time I've ever heard him say this. So I'm like kind of like digesting it in real time, honestly. And I think there's some truth to it. Like, I care about the outcomes of these games. Before I was watching all of these games for this channel and stuff, I would definitely like watch games and compulsively like check the scores and check the outcomes, mainly because each game mattered so much, no matter who it is, especially when you're talking about like, hey, the Lions are playing the Packers, like that has real that matters for the division. Same thing, the Giants and the Eagles, the Giants and the Cowboys, the Chiefs versus the Broncos. Like, it really kind of interesting. But I'm watching the game to see the outcome, but I also want action as well, right? Like, I still want a great game, because if I only cared about the outcome, then I would just watch the highlights, or I would just tune in on the fourth quarter. And often basketball games, that's what I'll do. Like, especially depending how busy I am, unless it's like a game that I really care about, that I'm like excited. It's like, all right, it's Steph versus LeBron again. And this was like years ago when those matchups actually mattered. It was like, all right, cool, let's watch this. But there's plenty of games where I'm like, yeah, I want to know the outcome of this game, but like, I don't really feel like slugging through a first quarter or second quarter of this game where like it doesn't matter. I'll jump in at the second half or something. And then especially if there's like a big lead, sometimes like I'll do that and I tune into a game. Or if I start a game and I have it recorded and one of the teams goes out to like a big lead and they're up by 20 or 15, like I'll casually fast forward to be like, okay, well, do they at least close this? Because I don't feel like watching 3/4 of this and they just never close the gap at all. And then now it's like, okay, great. So, and I would never dare do that for football, ever. Unless it's like, and again, this is like never happened. Like the team gets off to like a 35-point lead, then it's like, all right, I guess that. But again, my viewing habits have absolutely changed. Like I take notes and stuff. Like I didn't do that before I had a channel. So I'm definitely maybe going to be a slightly different person at this point. So I'm trying to think about what I do now, especially and what I did before. And again, it's like, yeah, you want to know the outcome. And so that's why this game, like, I really had no desire to watch this game because it didn't matter. We care about the outcome because the games matter. That's ultimately what it comes down to. For basketball, the 15th game of the season does not matter. The 30th game of the season does not matter. The 50th game of the season does not matter. The games for the NBA fundamentally do not matter. They just don't. That has always been the problem of the NBA. You can go on a 7-game losing streak and still win the championship. You go on a 7-game losing streak in the NFL, and it's like you got a great spot to maybe draft number 1 overall. So that's what matters. If the Bengals were fighting truly for a playoff spot, then you would care about this game. They tried to sell us on the idea that the Cowboys we're back. We can make the playoffs. And I had to do a whole video about it on First Things First. And I was like, this is such a waste of time. We all have to pretend like the Cowboys actually have a chance to make the playoffs, or that it even matters, even if they somehow limped into the playoffs, like it was going to mean anything. And it doesn't. It doesn't at all. So games just have to have meaning. That's why a lot of games, watching the Chiefs versus the Raiders or something, like, you don't really care. Especially now you do a little bit because those teams have started to play the Chiefs a little bit closer and whatnot. But otherwise, you're like, I'll check the box score, see how this game unfolded. Maybe watch a few highlights. I'll let these shows tell me what happened, contextualize it for me. But like there's still plenty of skippable games. Who's running to watch the Patriots versus the Jets? I know I'm not. I mean, I don't care. Who was watching the Dolphins without Tua? Because now he's saying like they're becoming too quarterback centric, and it's like, right, like, who was watching those games without it? And again, the reason why you would watch this game is because of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So I agree with that. And to be clear, like, I'm not disagreeing with Colin. I'm kind of taking like every side of this because I kind of have mixed feelings about where this all goes and what this all means. In terms of Colin saying be careful with the bottom and how it's becoming too quarterback centric. I don't care. Like, it's becoming so quarterback centric for a couple reasons. One, because the NFL is doing it, and two, also because that's all anyone ever talks about in the media as well. And I've talked about this a lot as well, and I get it because it's easier to view these teams through the lens of a quarterback. I always constantly try to de-emphasize all the praise and blame on said quarterbacks, as you guys definitely know, and I take a lot of heat for it. But I do get it because it's too hard. I mean, people know Joe Burrow. They don't know who the safety is, who the corner is. Most people don't even know the names of defensive coordinators at all, right? And that's just the defensive side of the ball. Most people don't know how the impact of a left tackle, and so that will always be a problem. But at the same time, even when you have a backup quarterback, especially when I was watching games where, like, I didn't feel, sometimes, again, now that how I watch games, it's like I really want to take notes. I really want to understand what happened, and I really give my undivided attention, especially for games that really matter, that really have stakes, because I'm like, okay, let me see what this means. But in the past, when I was just definitely more just kind of like casually watching, like, even if there was a backup quarterback, I would watch just because I'm like, all right, well, let me see what this backup quarterback can do. Who's Gardner Minshew? Let me see, who's this guy? Let me see what he does. Oh, he's won a few games in a row. That's interesting. And then you watch it. I used to think like, oh, backup quarterbacks are a disaster, but like that's actually what made the Cowboys-Giants game interesting. Because I'm like, we got two quarterbacks. Who knows what's going to happen? It was more interesting to watch that game because it didn't matter than if it was Dak Prescott versus, I don't know, man. We can't necessarily say Daniel Jones, but just some other quarterback that was maybe like the equivalent of Dak Prescott. Because their games didn't matter. Because it really truly didn't matter who won and lost that game at the end of the day. It didn't matter. So it was actually more interesting to me to watch a bunch of backups go head to head, because then you're like, hey, I don't know what's about to happen here. So much I watch these games because I don't know what's going to happen. That's probably what draws me to watch a game more than anything, because I don't know what's going to happen. Not so much because I'm like, I can't wait to see Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. I want to watch a game where I just don't know. I don't know. I watched the Packers-Lions game, and I'm like, I don't know how that game's going to unfold. I have no idea. That's why it's always funny when a game ends in a very unique way, like what happened against the Rams versus the Bills. And someone was like, oh, Nick was right. The Rams won that game. And I'm like, really? He thought the score was going to be 44-42, block punts for a touchdown, and Josh Allen was going to have 6 total touchdowns and over 400 total yards, and they were still going to lose. That's what he thought was going to happen? Like, I don't think so. You know, so it's like the details are what I want to know. If I just cared about the outcome of that game and just saw it, like you missed a huge part of it. So I don't know. This is actually an interesting topic that I clearly still have not really reached a concrete conclusion on, and I feel like it kind of just really matters, kind of from game to game, team to team, and at what part in the season, you know. What are the stakes? You would be watching this game for the outcome if this was a week 2 game versus a week, you know, what are we, 13, 14, whatever it is. So yeah, I don't know. But those are just my thoughts, my unfleshed out thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. What are you guys all thinking? Address this either way. Do you think the Bengals are wasting Joe Burrow's talent? Which I didn't really address. The answer is obviously yes, 1000% yes. Just like the Bills are wasting Josh Allen's talent. We every single year we have quarterbacks, their talent being wasted. Could you imagine if Baker Mayfield didn't get another chance, or if Sam Darnold didn't get another chance? I mean, these are 2 quarterbacks who now have like legitimate careers ahead of them. Both of those quarterbacks have years in the NFL now, and it was, for the most part, it was kind of sheer luck that they even got other chances to prove, hey, no, we're actually like legitimate quarterbacks. We can play. Stop putting the blame on us for the failures of the organization. So feel free to give your comments on that side about why we watch football games. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.